This is a Jupiter 6 that is currently for auction on eBay. I'm going to do a quick run through. Let's start with just a basic nice pad, a nice Roland pad. We'll see that all 6 voices work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And of course it has other nice sounds. It has a nice sync sound. Kind of fun when you put it in unison mode. In any case, let's put this in manual mode. We won't play a preset sound. We're just going to work with a front panel. Just to show, go through a quick run through, I should say, of the front panels to make sure the features work. So we'll just set the waveform of VCO1 to a sawtooth, just a basic waveform so we can hear the functions. Oh, while we're at it, let's test the keyboard. The keyboard works on this, which is great. So let's see, what else have we got? LFO. To test the LFO, let's have it modulate VCO1. So we'll turn up the VCO mod for the LFO. That's a sine, I say it's a triangle waveform with the rate. And the delay also, this is sliders for the delay. It controls how long after you hit the key the LFO comes in. Other waveforms for the LFO, this was triangle. Then we have sawtooth. Which is kind of fun, it goes into the audio range. And then we have square waveform for the LFO, and random. So we'll turn that off for now. Let's see the other thing you can do as far as modulating VCO1 is the, of course, envelope 1 modulation. The envelope 1 is modulating the pitch of VCO1. You can also do the same on VCO2. We'll get to VCO2 in a second. Let's talk about pulse. Actually, let's do it now. This is VCO2 we're hearing now. We'll make it an octave higher so you can hear the difference. That's 2. That's 1. Put them together. Often that's a source of brass sounds, analog brass sounds. So let's go back to VCO1. And what about pulse width modulation? That's what this section is. So let's set the oscillator to variable pulse width. Setting the pulse width manually. And of course you can have the pulse width modulated by, for example, the LFO. Let's set it to a triangle and modulate it. Very common, popular sound. It gives it a very rich sound. And you can have the pulse width modulated by envelope 1 as well. Cross modulation. Let's see. Let's do cross mod this way. And that's done manually. You can also have it controlled by the envelope 1. The range for VCO1. And the waveforms, you have triangle, saw, pulse width, which we just heard, and we have triangle. I'm sorry, we have square. We also have oscillator sync between the two. I always have a little bit of trouble figuring this out. There we go. So let's set envelope 1 to modulate the pitch of VCO1 to get a sync going. There we go. It's a nice synchronized sound. Little throwback to the 80s there. Let's switch over to VCO2 and listen to that for a while. We'll go to the sine wave. We'll go to the sawtooth wave again. Here's the range. With a fine tooth as well. With a fine tune. So together with VCO1. Turn off the envelope modulation. So you can hear the fine tune. And going back to just VCO2, the waveforms, we have triangle. We have sawtooth. We have pulse width. And noise. And while we're on noise, why don't we look at the filter section? We have low pass filter with resonance, self oscillation. Actually, let's switch to a more interesting waveform for the oscillators. So anyway, we were saying we have low pass filter, a little bit of resonance. We also have band pass filter. Turn it up a little bit so you can hear. That's also resonance. And we have high pass filter. Which is also resonant. Turn it down. Just go back to low pass mode and test some of the modulation options. We have modulation via envelope. Envelope 1, I should say. And of course, LFO modulation of the VCF. And keyboard modulation, where you play on the keyboard will control how open or closed the filter is going to be. So let's go to a self-resonating sound. Let's set the resonance to self-oscillate. And we'll set this to noise. Turn up the keyboard tracking. And as you can see, the filter opens and closes where you play on the keyboard, similar to this effect, but controlled by the keyboard. Let's go to the VCA section now. We'll switch this to a sawtooth again. So this is envelope 2 level, because envelope 2 can control the VCA here. low, and high. And the VCA can be controlled again by our LFO. And let's just look at envelope 2 and see how it controls the VCA. Attack, the low sustain, quick decay, and release, and the key follow, which again has to do with where you play on the keyboard. With regards to envelope 2. Let's see, what have we got down here? Let's go to the glide first. Portamento. And we also have glissando, which is not very common on analog synthesizers. Let's play with the arpeggiator a little bit. We'll set it to a quick sound so we can hear how the arpeggiator works nicely. Increasing the range. We did 1 octave, 2 octaves, now we're at 3, and let's do 4. That's up. Now we'll go down in range, in the way it's played rather. And up and down. Sorry, I still had the amplitude key follow on. Up and down. Now let's look at the keyboard assignment mode. So we have solo. And we have solo in unison, where all the voices play together on one note. Really rich sounds. And you can detune them. And you have unison poly mode, where it plays as many voices as it can based on how many notes you play. Poly mode 1, poly mode 2, and hold. Key mode is where you can assign a different sound to the lower part of the keyboard, to the left of the arrow, or the upper part of the keyboard to the right of the arrow. And you can assign 4 voices to the lower and 2 voices to the top, or 2 voices to the lower and 4 voices to the top, or have the same sound across the whole keyboard. So let's try the 2 to 4 split. Let's see if I can call up a sound first for the lower half. I'd like to find sort of a bass sound. That should work. And then for the upper half of the keyboard, that should work. And again, we have 2 voices in the lower and 4 up top. Or the other way, we can have 4 voices down below, which is going to sound kind of mushy. Let's turn up the pitch. And 2 up top. Back to home mode. And you have patch presets. You can see all the lights work here. Let's go through the patch preset light works. Go through all the buttons here. And we have the numbers here. And if you can go to manual mode, I can't figure out how to get the protect right on or off. I can't remember where that is, unfortunately. How do I turn off protect right? I forgot. Well, that's the way it goes. And anyway, tape memory is over here if you want to save, verify, or load from a tape cassette. And of course, this is the tune button over here to tune the synthesizer. And let's see what else have we got that's of interest. Bender. Let's talk about the bender here for a second. This is a bender where you can set a different, you can individually control VCO1 or VCO2. So here's VCO1 and 2 together. You can set the range with a slider. You can have a very wide range if you want. Or you can control the oscillators independently. That's just control oscillator 1. Set them to different octaves so it sounds interesting. Or 2 by itself. 1 by itself, 2 by itself. And the bender can also control the VCF.